Hello YouTubers! I will be going through this week's games, review last week's tips and leaderboard of our footy tip comp, and also go through my Brownlow Votes for season 2025. My top 4 of the 2025 Brownlow medal after round 14 are: in top spot we have B. Smith Geelong with 26 votes, 41 disposals against Essendon, best on ground. In second spot, we got N. Dacos Collingwood with 20 votes, he had the bye. In third spot, we had C. Geelong Fremantle with 19 votes. And joint fourth spot with 17 votes are J. Dawson Adelaide and Tom Green GWS Giants. These are my top 4 of the 2025 Brownlow votes after round 14. Looking at my round 14 tips, there were 7 games. I got one wrong, 6 out of 7 correct. I got the Brisbane wrong against GWS Giants. The Giants had an upset 11-point win against the Brisbane Lions at the Gabba. 6 out of 7. It cost me the perfect round for round 14. Let's look at the leaderboard in the Talking Effing AFL leaderboard. Let's look at the top 4 of the Talking Effing AFL tipping comp. In top spot with 78 votes, we have Potter 1, followed by Patrick L32 with 77. Then you got me, Talking Effing AFL with 76. And in fourth spot, we have I Am Hacks with 75 votes. These are my top 4 for the Talking Effing AFL tipping comp. Before we continue, I would like to ask for a very small favour. If you enjoy this AFL content, please take a sec to subscribe to the channel and like the video. That would be awesome. Okay, let's return back to the show. The first game of the week, played on a Thursday night at Optus Stadium, is between Fremantle Dockers and Essendon Bombers. Freo had a good 6-point win against the Kangaroos at home, even though it was away at Optus Stadium. And Essendon were very disappointed and they lost to Geelong Cats by 95 points. The players injured for the Dockers are Jones, Pearce, Simpson, Walker and Hayden Young. For the Bombers, they're going to be missing a lot of players: Bryan, Draper, Durham, Edwards, Elhari, Hayes, Jones, Langford, Nguyen, Redmond, Reid, Ridley and McKay is 50-50 for this week. The players in the mix for the Dockers are Dudley, H and McDonald. For the Bombers, their players in the mix are Hobbs, Shield, Vicentini and maybe Ben Mackay. Where the game will be won at, it's the ruck midfield set of the two respective sides. For Fremantle, in ruck you got either Jackson or Darcy, with the midfielders of Sarong, Brayshaw, Bolton, Johnson and Sharp. Whereas the Bombers, you got Goldstein in ruck, with the midfielders of Caldwell, Parrish, Merritt, Loau, second game, and Dersma. And just looking at Fremantle's midfield, they've got so much quality, especially starting in ruck with either Darcy or Jackson against Goldstein, and then the gun midfielders of Sarong, Brayshaw and Bolton. I expect Freo to win the clearances and stoppages and ground ball gets, and they'll put a lot of inside 50s to the key forwards of Amos, Patrick Ross, some firing power. Therefore, I'm going to select Fremantle to beat Essendon by 36 points. The second game of the week is played on a Friday night at GMHBA Stadium between Geelong Cats and the Brisbane Lions. Geelong, what can I say, last week they demolished Essendon by 95 points and the Brisbane Lions lost at home to GWS Giants by 11 points. The players injured for the Cats are Conway, Guthrie, Hoffman, Koldatsky and Moreira. For the Lions, they'll be missing Smith and McCarthy. Players in the mix for the Cats are Bowers, Henry and Buse. For the Lions, their players in the mix are McInerney, Gardner and Tunstall. Where the game will be won at, it's the ruck midfield set up the two sides. For Geelong, you got standing ruck with the midfielders of Smith, Atkins, Holmes, Dempsey and Vickhouse. For the Lions, you got Fort in ruck with the midfielders of Dunkley, Neal, McCluggage, Berry and Fletcher. Look on paper, the Lions have an awesome mid. However, I see 2 players in Geelong's midfield in Bailey Smith and Max Holmes, who got speed and X factor. I expect them to take the game on and provide a lot of meters gain for the Geelong Cats. and they've got the hottest forward right now, Jeremy Cameron, who's kicked like 20 odd goals in the last 5 games. If they give him so much inside 50, I expect Geelong to kick a big score, and the Lions have lost 3 of the last 4 games, and therefore I'm going to tip the Cats to beat the Lions by 15 points. The third game of the week is between Carlton and North Melbourne Kangaroos. The players injured for the Blues are Cottrell, Jagger Smith, Kemp, Newman, Cowan and Sam Walsh now with a foot injury. Big blow. For the Kangaroos, they'll be missing Bergman, Comben, Core, Goda and Darcy Tucker. The players in the mix for the Blues are Durden, Binns, Young and McKay. For the Roos, their players in the mix are Harvey, Dawson and Tickle. Where the game will be won at, it's the ruck midfield setup for these two sides. For the Blues, in ruck, you got TDK or Declining, with the midfielders of Sarah, Binns, Sincora, Cripps and Akers. For the Roos, you got Xavier in ruck, with the midfielders of Wardlaw, Sheasel, Simpkin, LDO or Luke Davis-Uniacke and Dylan Stevens. Just looking at that, I expect Xavier to do well against Declining in ruck, and given that Sam Walsh is out and the Blues have got quality midfielders, you can have LDU on Cribs, and then you got like Sheasel in the midfield, Simpkin, the captain. I expect the Kangaroos to have a lot of inside 50s, and they were pretty good last week. They just lost to Fremantle by 6 points at the stadium. I'm going to tip North Melbourne to beat Kangaroos because they got the good forwards of Larkey, Zerha and Curtis, and I'm going to tip the Roos to win by 11 points and redeem themselves from that bad Good Friday loss to Carlton earlier this year. Fourth game of the week is played in Adelaide between Port Adelaide Power and then Sydney Swans. The Power had a good win against the Demons by 4 goals, and the Swans had the bye. The players injured for the Power are Crockham, Jones, Lukosius, Marshall, Moss and Xavier Walsh. For the Swans, they'll be missing Edwards, Gordon, McDonald and Papley. The players in the mix for the Power are Boak, Evans and Moreira. For the Swans, their players back are Armani from suspension, Mitchell's in the mix and Roberts. Where the game will be won at, it's the full line of the Swans and the Power's defence. In the full line for the Swans, you got Francis, McLean, Jordan, Campbell, McInerney and Armani back from suspension. And in defence for the Power, we got Zert Thatcher, Ragalia, Bergman, Farrell, Alir and Sim. I like that setup of the Power's defence. They've got players that can stop the key forwards of Ragalia and Alir to take inside the marks against Armani. And they got the elite kicking, or some good kicking in them, Sin and Farrell of half-back to provide a lot of counter-attack for the Power. And given that, just look at City's full line, I'm not sure they can kick 12 to 13 goals. Therefore, I expect the Power to kick a lot more goals, especially Georgiades kicking 7 against the Demons last week. I'm going to tip the Power to beat the Swans by 16 points. The next game, played on a Saturday night, is between Collingwood Magpies and St Kilda Saints. Collingwood had the bye last week, and St Kilda were very disappointing and lost to the Western Bulls by 72 points. The players injured for the Maggies are Tagoe, Harrison, Johnson, McRae, Maynard, McInnes and Schultz. For the Saints, they'll be missing Cordy, Howard, King and Philippou. The players in the mix for the Maggies are Lipinski, Mitchell, Parker and Steen. For the Saints, their players in the mix are Dow, Henry, Boxshell and Heath. Where the game will be won at, it's the ruck midfield setup of the two respective sides. For the Maggies, you got Cameron in ruck with the midfields of Long and Dacos, Lipinski, Sidebon and Cripps. For the Saints, you got Marshall in ruck with the midfields of McRae, Steele, Sinclair, Wood and Hill. Just looking at the two respective sides, Collingwood, they've got so much gun players in the midfield. Dacos, experienced side bottom, Cripps who can play attacking well. Lipinski is a ball getter. I just expect Collingwood to win more of the centre bounce clearances and stoppages. And also, you can add rotations of Harriman, Penalby, Jay Dacos. They've just got so much depth, the Collingwood Magpies. And they're going to kick a bigger score. They play this attacking game. And I want to tip Collingwood to beat St Kilda Saints by 28 points. The next game, played on a Sunday at Energy Stadium, is between GWS Giants against Gold Coast Suns. The Giants had a good 11-point win against the Brisbane Lions at the Gabba, and the Suns had the bye. The players injured for the Giants are Angro, Briggs, Cogniglio, Gottard, Hannaford, Stringer and Ward. The Suns will be missing Ballard, Berry, Graham, both Grahams, Will and Caleb Graham respectively, Hilberg, Noble and Rogers. The players in the mix for the Giants are Ware, Angwood and James Leake. For the Suns, their players in the mix are Moyle, Reid and Farah. Where the game will be won at, it's the forward line of the Giants and the Suns defense. In the forward line for the Giants, you got Cadman, Hogan, who kicked 6 goals on the weekend, Jones, Toby Green, Halloran, Thomas. In defense for the Suns, you got Noble, Andrew, Rioli, Ulan, Collins and Powell. Just look at the Giants forward line. They've got this class, the small medium forwards of Thomas, Darcy Jones, Green, that's Toby Green, plus Hogan and Cadman, who kicked 6 and 5 respectively last week. And I expect the Giants full line to kick a big bag of goals. And can the Suns defenders stop them? I say unlikely. And I'm going to tip the Giants to kick a winning score against the Gold Coast Suns, with Hogan dominating and Cadman contributing, plus Toby Green getting on the scoreboard as well. The last game of the week is between Western Bulldogs and Richmond at Marvel Stadium. The Doggies had a magnificent 72-point win against St Kilda, and Richmond had the bye. The players injured for the Doggies are Hoff, Johannesson, Jones and Waitman. For the Tigers, they'll be missing Armstrong, Clark, Dow, Gipkus, Lalo and Smiley. The players in the mix for the Doggies are Harms, Puslinga, Gallagher and Jakes. For the Tigers, their players in the mix are Lafu, Tracy and Gray. Just look at the two sides. The Richmond Tigers are in full rebuild mode. They've got so many players that have been taken in the first 2 years of the draft, blooding so much players. And the number 1 draft pick, Lalo, is injured with a hamstring. Even top 10 draftee, Smiley is injured. Jackson Clark did his knee a couple of weeks ago. Some youngsters, including Armstrong, who's also taken the top 20 last year's draft, out as well. Whereas the Doggies, they're in win now mode. They thumped the Saints by 72 points. Bulldogs are a top 8 side. There's potential. I believe they could finish in the top 4 end of the season. Good team, good roster. Sam Darcy back, was on fire last week, kicked a massive bag. I just can't see Richmond stopping the Western Bulldogs midfield gun players of the Bourne, the Libba and Sam Darcy, plus Norton up forward. And I expect the Western Bulldogs to beat Richmond by 35 points. My tips for round 15 are the Dockers and Geelong to win their respective home games, the Kangas an upset against Carlton at the MCG, and the following 4 teams to win their home games of the Power, the Magpies, the Giants and the Western Bulldogs respectively. These are my tips for round 15. Thank you for watching my video, and it will be appreciated if you can subscribe and comment to my videos. Hopefully you enjoyed my video, and see you next time. Cheers or bye.